Hola muchachos, bienvenidos a el video sobre las diferencias entre el pretérito y el imperfecto. Now last week and the week before that, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out, first of all, how do you conjugate the preterite? How do you conjugate the imperfect? And then whether or not you can identify whether it was preterite imperfect, and then whether or not, if I told you to conjugate it in the preterite, you knew what endings to use. So we got all that taken care of. Now we need to focus on the differences. So with all this conjugating, with all this identifying, what the heck do we do with it? Okay? So as I told you in class, 80% of the time the preterite is going to be anything that ends in ed. I walked, I read, I danced, I cooked. And 80% of the time, imperfect is going to be your ing form in Spanish, in English, I'm sorry. So you're going to say, I was reading, we were dancing, my mother was cooking. So here you go, ing and ed. This is 80% of the time. You don't have to worry about it. 80% of the time, it's going to be so clear to you. 20% of the time, though, is what you need to worry about, because that's when you need to figure out, do I need preterite or do I need imperfect? And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but 20% can be a lot. So first, I want to mention that the preterite is an event. This is the action that is important. This is the action that you want your listener, the person that you're talking to, or your reader. This is what you want them to hear. This is what you want them to focus on. I drove to school in the snow this morning. The fact that I'm driving, that's what's important. Or whether it's an action that happened continuously, whether it just, you don't know when it started, you don't know when it ended, and furthermore, you don't care. This is not the important action. It was snowing outside. I was driving to school when the squirrel walked in front of my car. What's important? The fact that I was driving? What's important? The fact that it was snowing, or the fact that squirrel drove or walked in front of my car while I was driving? The important part is the squirrel walking in front of my car. The other just kind of sets the scene, just kind of gives you the background information. Now, as I mentioned before, I know I mentioned this in class, if an event interrupts another event, that's preterite. This is if the event expresses background information. This is the background information, the fact that it was snowing, the fact that I was driving. I have another phrase in there that says evento en secuencia. This is an event in sequence. And then I have this phrase right here, a simultaneous event, evento simultáneo. Okay, so I want you to envision, I've got two hands. If I am setting the tone, if I am giving you the setting, the background, the plot, that is imperfect. The action that comes in and interrupts, that's going to be preterite. So for example, I was watching TV when I heard the crash outside. I was watching TV. You don't know when you started watching TV. You don't know when you ended watching TV, nor do you give a damn. That's not what's important. What's important is the action that it came and interrupted. You were in peace. You were fine. You were watching TV. But something came in and interrupted you. That's preterite. This guy is imperfect. Now with sequence. Sequence means the bell rang. We all walked out into the hall. We talked to each other about where we were going to meet. We met at McDonald's. Those are sequence of events. That means one ended before the next one started. Sequence. If you have a sequence, one has to end before the other one starts. Sequence. Those are all going to be preterite. All going to be preterite. However, if you have two actions and they are simultaneous, meaning I was watching TV while my mom was cooking dinner. These simultaneous actions, both of them, are preterite. Are imperfect. Okay? Now, description. A description is obviously setting the tone. A description is obviously giving you the background information. Eran las 6 de la tarde. It was 6 p.m. I'm setting the tone. It was a Wednesday. Era miércoles. Hacía mucho frío. That's imperfect. We're going to talk more about this. Giving someone's age. Again, I'm setting the scene. I can't just say, oh, I fell off a tree. Well, if I fall off a tree now as an adult, that's kind of funny. But if I say, when I was 10 years old, I fell off a tree. Well, you know what? All kids fall off a tree at 10 years old. So if you are giving the age, that's setting the tone. That's giving the setting. Therefore, it has to be imperfect. Habitual or repetitive. Something that happened all the time. What I want you to put next to here is I want you to put used to. My family and I used to visit our grandma every Saturday. We used to play Monopoly every day. Used to. Something that happened more than once. A mental activity. Again, you don't know when it started. You don't know when it ended, nor do you care. I thought he was a nice guy. Mental activity. I hated him. Mental activity. I respected him very much. Mental activity. Physical description. Again, you're setting the tone. He was tall. She had blonde hair. Tenía pelo rubio. That's imperfect. Then we have comenzar, empezar, and terminar. These guys are always preterite. Don't ask me why. If you start getting into why here, you're going to get really philosophical and you're only going to get yourself in trouble. So just trust me on this one. Comenzar, empezar, and terminar. Always preterite. Always preterite. Okay? We'll talk more about this when you come back. Uh-oh. That's a surprise quiz. Shh. Okay. So, we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Adios, muchachos.